Sykes with 10, straightaway with 9, around a screen, sidesteps his way. Rollins is open, looking for his 4-3 of the game. It's on its way, 4 for 4. Rollins to league bay. Heat up, young man.
We are Southern Illinois.
To his near right, ball deflects out to Steffi. Steffi, middle of the floor, top of the key, another lob. Now Davion Sykes says, I'll finish it. Davion Sykes slams it home. What a sight for sore eyes.
It's time for Saluki basketball.
And that will do it. SIU ends the 4-game skid, and Scott Nagy becomes the 13th active head coach to reach 600 career wins. He is the 70th all-time to reach number 600. SIU wins game number 9. They are now 9-12 on the season, 3-7 in the Valley.
Now, here is the voice of the Salukis, Luke Martin.
Saluki Nation, welcome back on in to the Saluki Radio Basketball Podcast as we recap big-time win for SIU on Wednesday night in Banterra Center, and they get rewarded with the hottest team in the league, one of the hottest teams in the country in UIC here on Saturday. And speaking of UIC, Elijah Crawford, man, he has been a standout ever since he has come back. The game against SIU was his second game back since returning to the lineup. And, man, he has been so important to this UIC team, and he's been off to such a great start. And he's going to join us here on the podcast. Really looking forward to talking with him. But we'll chat with him. We'll preview the Flames yet again. And, of course, recap everything to do with you and I on Wednesday night. And it's no greater pleasure than mine always. Welcome on the Hall of Famer, Rodney Watson. Coach Watson, great to have you with me, brother. And, man, these are a lot more fun after a night like we had last night in Banterra. Really a dominating win for SIU in many ways. You and I would claw back and get close to about 7 points. I think it's as close as they got once the league got the double figures. But that was the best thing about the win in so many ways last night, and beating UNI 65-50, which never felt that tension in the arena down the stretch. And to me, that is a huge tip of the cap to the Saluki team and shows you the improvement that they have made here in just recent weeks.
I have to think way back when Southern actually had a multiple possession win. And the reason I'm thinking about that, because normally you think about the losses and you try to explain some stuff, both what could happen, what didn't happen. You're mindful even in the wins and in one possession games. You think, well, this went well. Like Coach Jacobson said, sometimes the other team just gets lucky or you get lucky. Man, there was nothing about luck in this game. It was from the start all the way through. They finished both halves great to the point where with 3-some to go in the last media timeout, that was pretty much the end for most of the starters for Northern Iowa. Coach Jacobson kind of moved on to the next one. And when you can do that to that program, that's one that we all respect, you're really doing something.
Really hope Trey Campbell is okay. When he took that tumble at the start of the second half, he never re-entered into the game. And Coach Jacobson said with J.W. Cox, who does a great job on their radio broadcast, that they guess he banged knees on that play. And hopefully Trey will be okay because, man, he's a really good player. And ironically, he's not played well against the Salukis in his career, but not every Valley team can say that with how many positive games he's had, especially Murray State. Most weekly came off a 27-point win. But, of course, in so many ways, the headline of this one, Coach Watson, outside of the game itself, was Coach Nagy getting win number 600. And I'll put it up again here on the screen. And these are the leaders or the most active coaches right now, the top 13. There are 13 coaches right now in Division I college basketball that have 600 D1 wins. And we've run through that list on the show, and our fans can see it now. It's just a remarkable accomplishment when you look at those names. And what's great is, for me, is so many of those guys like Coach Nagy himself can relate to, because you got Greg Campy, who he went up against a ton when they were in the Summit League, when he's, of course, always been at Oakland. Of course, Greg McDermott and what he has done at Creighton and with the Valley ties. It's just really neat to see that when you've coached for that long and the impact you've had on so many people, to be in that category, that is a very, very elite and special group.
And just so everyone knows, everyone's paying attention. I got a call late this morning from Coach Weber. The first thing he said when I answered the phone, 600 wins, man, that's impressive. He goes, man, you got to be a good coach to do something like that. And I really echo when you show the list of coaches, just even though the average fan wouldn't know some of these people, believe me, those of us that have coached over the years, because scheduling has been such a big part of what we've done. And for me, doing it at both the Division II and Division I level, man, certain coaches that can really coach, and Coach Nagy's in a strong group, and you can't backdoor into that one. I mean, that number is not one that you could say there's no yeah but on that. It's yeah but it's 600, and that is a strong number. Congratulations, Coach. Man, that is impressive.
It is. And what was really neat afterwards was when he got to hear some of those really key voices and people that have impacted his career, throughout his 30 plus years as a coach. And that's where, I mean, you can speak to this, Rodney, is the wins are special. The championships you remember, those are always great when you get to look at rings, but it's truly the impact you have on lives throughout your career as a coach that everybody wants to win. And no doubt Coach Nagy, he told us after the game, he wants SIU to be a big part of his career where they can be a part of that next milestone, whatever that is. He said the number 700. He's like, man, I want them to feel a major part of that because it means we're having so much more success. But still, you could tell very clearly it meant a lot to him in that moment because of how many people have been a part of his journey as well.
I also really enjoyed listening to Jamie and the words that she said. And for me, having been married throughout my college career of coaching, both at SIU and at Southern Indiana, Coach says that he enjoyed the losses because it makes him a better person. I understand exactly what he's talking about. I don't say necessarily I agree with that part of it, but he makes a great point about the losses humble you and they make you come back to a higher power on needing strength and so forth. But I think about Jamie and all those games she sat through, just like my wife and Coach Weber and Coach Heron and everyone that I've ever coached with that I know that coach. It's not easy for the spouses, the wins or the losses, and because the families hear everything, both the good and the not so good, and I have a lot of respect for Coach and his wife and what they've been through and just the longevity of it. And man, when he said in the next 4 years to get to 700, it's like, man, now you're talking my language. I like the way you're thinking, brother. Let's go.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into win number 600 for Coach Nagy. Like you said, 65-50 win over UNI. No surprise that the Ken Palm MVP was Rollins of League Bay. Rollins was terrific in the ball game. His third double-double in league play as well. Third double-double, should say, on the season. He's got 2 double-doubles in league play, 2 of those 3. 21 points, 10 rebounds for him in the game. Was all over the place. And specifically, you were just marveling at the effort, and just say effort, but also the athleticism that Rollins shows on his rebounds.
2 hands. Coach Heron would say it all the time. He's the first coach that I was around. And I was 28 when I got hooked up with Coach, and so I didn't have a whole lot. But even like in camps or in clinics, I went to a lot of clinics when I was a young coach, and I never heard anyone stress rebounding with 2 hands like Coach Heron did, and it was completely logical. I heard Rick Samuels at Eastern Illinois when I was a manager for his program talking about chinning the ball. And he was saying the same thing. And when you bring a rebound down, you bring it to your chin, and that's another area that I didn't get a chance to talk about last night. Not only does he go get it with 2 hands at the peak of his jump, but then he brings it to a spot where, frankly, you're crazy if you get in there and try to get it from him because you could physically be harmed, but he brings it to a strong position. And then the final part, he gets the ball to the next place. Like, he gets out of it and he doesn't get hurried. And just every aspect of rebounding, he's going to go down. I wasn't fortunate enough to ever see Josie Merriweather or the great players from that era or in Walt Frazier's era, but Seymour Bryson, they marvel, they marvel at how, the all-time leading rebounder at SIU, about how Dr. Bryson was such a great rebounder. I got to believe that if he would have a chance to watch Rollins from the scores table, which he watched so many for years, he'd be extremely proud of Rollins and just his strength and his poise. And there's a serious major desire when you go rebound at the level he's rebounding.
It was a point in the game when you look back at it, and it was when Jalen Haynes went to the free throw line and he got his first point. And we were both like, this is first point of the game. And the reason we were in that way and kind of said it in that way is because the impact that Jalen had throughout. He had the best plus minus on the team, plus 19, I believe it was, impacted the game in so many ways. And it was his defense, Coach Watson, that Kevin Lehman, who was on the TV side, he was so impressed after the game when he caught up with me of just like, that dude can guard. And he no doubt showed it and was everywhere on the floor.
Length, anticipation, his strength. They have him recorded for 4 steals. That's a huge factor in this game. And, we're going to talk about UIC in a bit. It's a big reason why they have such success. And it's, for a guy like Jalen to not let his offense get in the way of his assists, his ability to take care of the ball. We talked about Trey Campbell, and he had 3 assists in the game. And that's a lot for Northern Iowa's guard, especially Campbell, to have. And Jalen was just his plus minus because of, you speak of his defense, but it wasn't a fluke that he had such a high number, and Southern maintained a multi-possession lead throughout the game.
Drew Steffi is a guy that you say when you watch him, there are so many important things that he is doing for this team. What were some of those things, especially as we record this last night on Wednesday, that he did in the Northern Iowa game specifically that stood out to you?
On the offensive end, he's not settling for one type of shot. I thought he kind of fell into that trap a little bit as he was trying to get his 3-point thing going, that he would just keep looking for that one. He's so good off the dribble, as I've said all season long, especially on ball reversal. That makes him, when he adds those 2 combinations on the offensive end, that makes Southern's offense go. You'll hear Coach talk about go, move the ball. Well, the ball will stick, meaning it'll stay in one place, either stay in a person's hands or stay in a dribble in one spot. Drew does not stay in one spot, especially when he's looking to get to the basket. Go downhill is the new term we like to use. He's very good at it. And what he does when he goes downhill is his teammates know they've got to be ready because he is such a willing passer. He's unpredictable with the ball, okay? He's another guy that, he'll be one of the guys I look at right away when Southern doesn't have offensive rebounds because he's so sneaky, long, and strong. He gives us a chance to get extra possessions. And I'll kind of keep one of my eyes on him because I think he and Mayo both are so key. Sykes is the same way. Sykes had 3 offensive boards last night, played a marvelous game. But Drew's a guy that can do, he can get us offensive rebounds. He's smart. I go back to the Nevada game when it was in overtime, and the game looked dead, right? In overtime, we got the thing tied up, and then we had a chance really late to make a free throw, miss a free throw, and he didn't look to the side. He didn't look for it to be told what to do in that circumstance. He gathered his team, said, look, make this first one, miss the second, kick it out. Let's hit a 3 and take it in another. Like that, when you see a guy do that, whether it's in November or March, you've got a guy that's thinking basketball. He's not thinking about a missed shot. He's not thinking about, his girlfriend or what, all the other things that he's locked in on that game. With the way Southern switches, he is truly the one guy. Again, I keep an eye on him because he's really key, and he's got to get tighter on this. We kind of kid about the talk, touch, and switch. You've got to have communication, and you've got to physically touch guys. You got to touch your teammate and communicate whether you're going to switch or if there's a slip, you stay with, and I come back. You basically talk like you and I are talking right now in this podcast, and that's an area where he can get better without a doubt. But when it's a big little switch, man, he's so good at guarding bigs inside because he's physical and he can hold guys off. So, you think about just the things I've just said right there. Those are the things that he brings to this team. And when he doesn't bring one of them, to me, it's noticeable because he's so good at the other things.
So great to get the return of Kelron House in the game last night. He did not start, but he came off the bench and no doubt was impactful in so many ways. Had a really good offensive rating in the game, but 17 points for him. Also had 5 assists, which led the Salukis. Did have 3 turnovers, but chipped in a steal as well and played in 30 minutes. And what was great is You kind of saw him in the second half at times, maybe get a little bit gimpy and say, no, I'm good. I'm going to keep going. And came back to make some really big shots. You can no doubt tell some rust early in the game for Q, but as that game went along, he got stronger.
Yeah, and in the post game, I was talking to Davion Sykes, and I was alluding to something that he and I were kind of looking at the conversation a little different. I said, "Hey, can you slip out when you see Q coming down your lane?" Because look, Q's a scorer, man, and he's earned that, right? And Southern needs it. I mean, we really missed his 14 points in the games he didn't play, without question. Okay. But the thing that he likes to do as much as score, he loves throwing that alley-oop pass, and he's good at it. With his size, he has the ability, he has the knowledge, the timing. Something I noticed in those clips that were present from Jacksonville State, how he has great timing in his passing. But, man, he can really hit guys like Prince and Rollins and Davion. If they can get behind the defense, let their man freeze and give extra help on his drive, those are areas also that Q really helps his team. He's good at steals, man. He can really create problems on defense. He's got to be careful, especially on the road, being a little too handsy, keeping his hands on the dribbler. But here's another guy that's just evolving. And man, when you said it best, but I noticed it too. When Coach asked him, he was kind of limping a little bit, and we're all thinking, oh, the worst. And apparently, as Coach said in the post game, he talked about maybe being a toe or something like that. And Q's like, no, I'm good. And it's like, man, when we get this time of year, the good guys don't need to be tugging on their shirts right now. You got to be yanked out and arguing when you come out to some degree.
25 points for SIU's bench. They only had 12 points combined the previous two games without Q in. And look, in a way, as you go throughout the year, you start figuring out these rotations even more. And last night, we really complimented the job that Southern staff did and when guys got in, how they were effective, because there was no doubt that played a factor during the 4-game losing skid and trying to figure out exactly who's all in and when they need to be in. Didn't see Jorge Marino last night. Max Bakar, his minutes were few. But, man, Davion Sykes, how rejuvenating it was to see him finish at the rim, play key roles throughout the game. He is, and it's not to say that he is more important than anyone else on this roster when I make this next statement. But if Southern Illinois wants to do what UIC is doing and what they've done here, going on 7 straight wins, playing well collectively as a group, UIC has had guys come off the bench and play extremely well. One of them was Elijah Crawford at the start. Now he's a starter. Ahmad Henderson, Momo, all those guys we'll get into later. They've done marvelous off the bench. Southern's got to need that off the bench. And, man, if you can have Calron House, if he stays in this type of role, and Davion Sykes, man, those are two guys that are going to be essential and huge for SIU to have success here over the next couple weeks.
Another guy that you really have to pay attention to on the scouting report, and you brought it up with him, how people saw him make basket cuts on the baseline, and now we saw it last night, or especially in the first half. I saw Northern Iowa really back a guy, whoever was guarding him, really back down to the lane as soon as he made a cut and bodied him to keep him from cutting. I mean, we talk about scouting. It's that stuff is obvious, but his ability to steal possessions with offensive rebounds, his ability to finish in transition. You know, on the play, he said, I thought it was cool how the official said to him, and he answered, it's like he went hard for a dunk, and we thought it might have been a technical call for hanging on the rim, where in fact Coach had called a timeout, and there was a whistle blown. And then the referee said to him, hey, man, keep your tennis shoes off the backboard. And I wish one ref in my lifetime would ever say that to me, but that I don't think it ever happened or will ever happen. But the thing I was grateful of is he hung on the rim so no one would undercut him. But he is so powerful and ferocious. And when he gets behind defense, whether it's in transition or in the half-court offense, he's such an important factor. But he's another guy, and we go back to the Belmont game. He was the one on Owen Dillon, and he guarded him perfectly. He can guard 6'8". He can guard 5'8". He knows how to keep his feet apart. All those things aside, pale in comparison to what I'm going to say next. He is a senior that really, really wants to go out in a special way. it's evident on his face, whether he has a great game or he doesn't have a great game. This guy is playing like a senior, and he wants to know when he's coming and going, and I don't blame him for that. I had a really good friend of mine say years ago to me, "Hey, man, when you sub, players all want to start, but they really want to know when they're coming and going. So if they really can know if they're on the bench when it's going to be their time." And I think that I'm not speaking for him, but I got a feeling he really fits in that category. And last night he had such a good feel for the game, and Southern did a beautiful job of substituting last night.
It was a tremendous job by the Salukis, and no doubt made a really big impact in the win against Northern Iowa. Again, first time winning consecutive games against Northern Iowa since 2017, 2019, when the Salukis stacked 4 wins in a row against UNI. They beat UNI in the finale last year between the two teams there in late January, and then carries over there to the first meeting. Of course, it'll be round 2 soon enough between these two teams, which will be the second to last game, or was originally the second to last game of the year. We didn't get to it at the top of the podcast, but I say that because now there's a new final game of the year. Sunday, March 1st was going to be when that game gets made up with Evansville. We talked about that up on our broadcast last night. It was determined yesterday by both schools in the league office. Really, in a way, I think it could be a big blessing, and that kind of leads to the next point on what Davion Sykes talked about with us after the game. And you knew where I was coming from when we were going through it in our pregame. It wasn't trying to grasp for straws and searching for something to talk about. It was a legit question, and I guess more statement that I made of, could the weekend in Evansville, just being around your team, nothing else to do, hotel rooms, etc., around your group, no games, so like it's really no practice. They weren't shooting. All they had was time together. Could that turn out to be maybe one of the bigger blessings than ever? It's just one game, and there's many more here to come down the stretch. But I thought it was fitting that unprovoked, and we didn't prod him with it. That was one of the first things out of Davion Sykes' mouth following the win against Northern Iowa.
Yeah, and I think a whole lot of things fit into that statement. You're the one that brought up to me, and sometimes we think things, sometimes we maybe overthink things, whatever. But when you said it, it made sense to me. Okay, man, when Davion said it, man, it really, it was really impressive. And again, is it always the case? I think it was kind of the perfect storm, if you want to say that. In fact,
good word choice.
It was a storm, and I think it happened at the perfect time of the year when you're in the dog days of the college basketball season. And I was, not only was I impressed you said it, but I was really impressed that he would follow up with it, and that if you take 10 teams in the same circumstances, I'm not sure all 10 teams would say the same thing, but it sure made me feel good that he said about his team, and he's a senior.
It was an area that I brought up, I think it was maybe 2 podcasts ago, of how on Bartorvik you can do the date ranges and see how teams have done in a certain stretch of time, and how SIU was, unfortunately, they were at the very bottom of that totem pole when it came to those rankings. Updated it through the end of the Northern Iowa game, starting at the same point, which was after Belmont, right before Southern went on the road to take on UIC. UIC, by the way, they're top 50 in the country still in that time. 46 right now is their ranking. But all of a sudden, Southern, this just shows you how one game in a way can change so much. They go from being last in those metrics, Evansville now last at 239, and we'll get to the league scores. And man, what a heartbreaker for the Aces in Des Moines. Played so well and just unfortunately could not get over the hump last night at Drake. But so Southern goes from dead last to all of a sudden right kind of smack dab in the middle. In order, it goes UIC, Belmont, Valpo, Illinois State, Murray, the top 5. But then Bradley 6th and Southern 7th. So just off of a win against Northern Iowa, all of those different metrics, their defensive metrics are still good. But now you get boosted up there, kind of right there in the thick of it, in the middle, and you're still only have played 5 games in that stretch, and you're 1-4 in them. To me, that just, again, Coach Watson, it's one of those things where there are still good things that this Saluki team has done. The record isn't where you wanted it to be, but there are still really good things that we try to bring up and talk about here on our segments, not just because we just want to fill time. It's because, no, these are legit areas to look at to know if your team really has a chance to flip it. Like SIU hopes that they're going to be in that position now.
And SIU has been on the road all season. It seems like that stretch you're talking about was all on the road, which it wasn't. But Southern needs to stack up some home games, and they're going to get another one next, and then they have to go on the road to an Illinois State, and then I can't even tell you who's after that. But the reality is, Southern's not had the luxury of playing 3, 4, 5 home games in a row from November to this stretch, and we've been tested so much with the tough schedule, especially on the road, and then just factor in playing on the road. And it's hard. It's different. So give Southern a lot of credit for last night, man. They really, they were, you can look, and I did this for a living, so you can dissect it and you can talk about some free throw stuff. And, but the reality is there's nothing in that game that they got lucky with. And luck plays into things. It just does. But luck wasn't a factor last night. And man, from top to bottom, one other thing about the game that I found interesting. So whether Jalen starts or comes off the bench, and whether Q starts or come off the bench, they're both starters. I mean, they're definite stars, no doubt. So you take their 19 points out of that equation. Jalen's 2 free throws, Q's 17. Southern's 4 starters had 38 points. Northern Iowa's 5 starters had 38 points. And I found that to be a really important factor. We talk so much about the bench in this thing, and the bench has had a lot to do with all the teams you talk about in this segment of 5 games, how important and how well they're playing. The bench is a factor for everyone. But I'll tell you, the starters are certainly important too. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And Southern starters were, and of course Rollins was special, but Southern starters went against 5 starters that are Northern Iowa starters. Man, they're good. And Southern did a great job in that aspect as well. And so just a real congratulations for earning a really hard-fought victory, one that we all wanted and they really needed.
Really needed, and it doesn't just get handed to you. Southern had to go take it. And remember, this is a Northern Iowa team that only turned it over on average 9 times. And in that game, Coach Watson, you could clearly tell out of the 17 turnovers that they had. And I know Coach Jacobson mentioned multiple times, even heading into the game, like, we're comfortable playing fast. He believed he was a team like, yeah, we understand where our possessions are on the year, but they showed against Murray, if we need to push the tempo a little bit, they can. You could tell Southern really frustrated them with the tempo at times last night and got them sped up more than they wanted to get sped up.
Steals. 10 steals Southern had in the game. That's a big number. Congratulations to Southern for their hand. Their hands were active. Deflections all night long, and that might lead to a ball going out of bounds where Northern had to take the ball out afterwards. But 10 steals against Northern Iowa, that is almost unheard of. They just don't get it taken from them. Now they'll do things like, there'll be some travel stuff, some offensive foul stuff. That's part of everyone's. That's part of your resume. But to give it up 10 times on steals, that is a real compliment to Southern's defense.
It's a really big compliment for SIU. And I wanted to bring it up because I meant to bring it up earlier when we were talking about Rollins and his impact of rebounding. And you look within the league, Coach Watson, and just league games only, because I think that is the fair comparison when you just go league only games, because it's a little bit more apple to apples comparison, even though, again, it's not everybody has played the same teams at the same time, and I understand that. But here's the company that Rollins of League Bay is in now when it comes. This is just rebounds we'll start off with. These are the number of double-digit rebounding games within the league. Fred King pacing the way. I mean, what a year he is having. 6 already in the league as you're at the halfway mark. More than half of his games, he's had 10 or more rebounds in them. But there's only 2 other players who are at least halfway there that have 3 games or more. Drew Charnowski, the other, you could probably take a guess at who that third is. Rollins of League Bay, 3 double-digit rebounding efforts within the league. Again, in terms of his double-doubles as well, the only guy who has more double-doubles than him in the league, and again, in league-only games, is Fred King. He's got 6. Rollins with 2, which in that group with Rollins, Leon Bond, who we just saw, Roman Doman at Murray as well, Drew Charnowski and Ian Scott at Indiana State. Those are the group that have 2 double-doubles on the year. My point is that's nothing to just be like, that's kind of neat. No, I mean, like Rollins is right there in the conversation with the best bigs in the Missouri Valley Conference. And it's a tremendous tip of the cap to him. We haven't even mentioned on the podcast either is how he can really change how teams are going to guard SIU, because if he can consistently make outside shots, 4 for 4 was a remarkable night for him. But it's getting to that point now, Rodney, where teams just can't be like, all right, we're going to dare you to shoot it. Rollins is getting to the point where teams are going to have to start to account for that.
Wouldn't trade him for any big in the league. And Chase Walker, great player, preseason player of the year. Fred King, didn't get a lot of rips at Creighton, comes here and has a new lease on life, plays in the system. Without Charnowski, we've seen him. Not trading Rollins for anybody. And I love all those guys. Wish they were all Salukis, but wouldn't trade Rollins for anybody. And sounds like a homer talking, but it's the reality. Yeah, I'm a homer, but it's also a guy that if I had my choice, I'm taking him in the first pick.
Yeah, tremendous effort again by Rollins, and just further states the improvement that he has made here in his sophomore season and a ton of development. And, of course, Rollins, no doubt, deserves a big tip of the cap when it comes to that himself and the improvement that he's made, but also, as mentioned on other platforms too, give credit to the Saluki staff that has worked with him each and every day to see that improvement come to fruition. Well, let's look before we get to UIC. Let's talk about the league as a whole and those games that, of course, have happened this week. And speaking of the Flames, the last time we recorded a podcast was before the Tuesday game they had with Indiana State. And man, oh man, what a game it was in Chicago, 76-74. Elijah Crawford, the man who we'll talk to, made the game-winning basket. There are a lot of ways to lose a basketball game that can be excruciating. I don't know if there's a more excruciating way you can lose a game than Indiana State. They trail by, I believe, as many as 20. They come all the way back. They have a chance with the ball, Coach Watson, with 4 seconds left in regulation. Just a mistake by Ian Scott. He threw the ball towards the opposite end of the floor against their own basket, and Crawford made a heck of a play, stole it, and then turned around and laid it in, ultimately win the game. But those are the type of moments when you win those games kind of out of nowhere, it makes you feel you're really in a special season. And for UIC to cap off now 7 in a row, it's just another example for them where they're like, heck yeah, we believe. And it's time for others across the league now. They're not just a cute storyline. They're in the race now. I mean, they are right there with a chance to compete to win the league. Just now 2 games back of Belmont.
Good teams make their own breaks, and they definitely got a break. I'm not ready to hang it on the player making the inbounds pass. I think there was maybe I don't know if they had any timeouts left. I'm guessing they were probably out of timeouts.
I believe that was their last timeout.
Yeah, and so that obviously he had to get the ball in bounds, but the reality is if you had certain options, you just take a 5-second count as that. However, counters are a big deal. I mean, when we talk about plays that are going to be run in that segment on out of bounds, it's a big reason why coaches don't call timeout, because you've got to get the ball in bounds. It's not about what play you're going to run. It's getting a catch. And man, in this era with such length and so forth, not having a second option or another counter in case, both catches, the big near the free throw, near the elbow was taken away, and the guy supposed to get the catch simply couldn't get the catch. But all that said, you give UIC a lot of credit because they made their own break. And not only did they get the steal, Crawford put the ball in the basket. And that wasn't a given either. So just, as you pointed out, and I think back on when you said that just now, I'm thinking about in a whirlwind of the years at Southern, we had such good seasons. Man, there's countless times where you're playing a team at the bottom of the league and you got to fight like crazy, and whether it's at home or on the road. I think about St. Louis U the other night, a team that's 20-1. Coach Schert's doing a phenomenal job. Robbie Avila is going to be an All-American category, the way he's performing as both in his scoring ability and his percentages and so forth. man, they had to fight to the bitter end to get a win over George Washington, who's in the middle of the A10. And they're going to look back on that most likely and say, man, if Robbie doesn't get that shot in, it goes overtime. Who knows if the thing goes haywire or not. But when you have those type of seasons, you typically make your own breaks.
6 Flames scored in double figures, none more than 13 points. That shows you how balanced it was. Josiah Hammonds had 3 big threes in the game, and then also scoring in double figures was Nathaniel, Lowry, Washington, and Crawford, their whole starting 5 in the game, outside of Andy Johnson, who also has played really well, just only had 4 points in the game, only made 1 3, and then a free throw to boot. He was the lone one out of the starters that didn't score in double figures, but UIC gets the win 76-74 over Indiana State. Games on Wednesday, we've already touched on SIU and UNI. Drake and Evansville, again, we touched up on it kind of right before we got into it. Aces played about as well as you could for 30 minutes. It was a game that they led by as many as 19 in the game. 82-78 is the final by Drake. Drake led again by none other than Jalen Quinn, 26 points for him. Andrew Aaliyah chipped in 19. Owen Larson, who has came on strong as of late with 13 points. Moeller tried to do his best, a 20-point effort. Bryce Quinnett had a really good game, had a chance with the ball in his hands at the end to either tie it, to force overtime. Just couldn't get a shot off, turned it over there at the end of the game. But, man, it was, again, for Evansville to go on the road in a place in the Knapp Center that I know this year their home record isn't where they would like it to be, but we know how good Drake is. And, man, Evansville just, man, that's a tough one to swallow when you play so well for the overwhelming majority of the game and just can't make a few key plays down the stretch to win it.
You know, you had mentioned about maybe this is a blessing in disguise that where the guys are in the hotel room. And then when we were watching that score throughout the night, I'm thinking, I think same thing went on for Evansville. I think they kind of collected themselves, took some pressure off, took their act on the road, and probably were playing some of their best, if not their best basketball of the season in stretches. And then, you know, just down the stretch at the end, again, Drake got really fortunate. Ikea is a guy that was interesting that game. I think, did he have 9 assists in the game? He was involved more than just scoring. He was really big in all areas, but he's a guy that I remember Coach Henderson telling us that he really had the it factor as well when we were talking about their player that was hurt. But Drake's really coming on in it, and you know, kind of did it at our expense as well. And hopefully Southern can flip that and kind of flip the switch on that at somebody's expense.
Look, you say it somewhat jokingly, but you know, Southern kind of got Drake jump-started again in a way, and there was no doubt that the beginning of this 7-game winning streak for UIC started against SIU. The beauty is Southern's got another opportunity at UIC on Saturday, and they will see Drake again later on in the year. So the Salukis have chances to potentially, if you want to say redeem yourself in a way, could potentially there too. A thriller at Valpo. Belmont, they led for the majority of the game early. Valpo came back at a tremendous second half, and Belmont holds them off. 78-77 was the final score. Who else than Owen Dillon with a huge 3 late in the game to ultimately give them some separation. 23 points is what he had. Jack Smiley in his return to the Valpo area. He grew up in Valpo. 11 points for him off the bench. Jabez Jenkins, 14 points, who's had a really outstanding career. Lumblade did get in the double figures, but only 2 of 8 from 3 in the game. But then just you feel again for those teams that are trying to fight through and break through to get those big wins within the league. And Roger Powell's group, again, don't think you're going to go to the Arc, and it's going to be a lot of fun because they are playing their tails off. Owen Deese and Rakim Chaney, both 15 points each in that game. Just a tremendous effort by those guys.
Valpo is definitely in the conversation of absolutely don't want to play those guys, you know. And well, you're going to play somebody, and so, but they're not a team that you even think about taking lightly. And Coach Powell just keeps, and again, they're sitting there in having to go through this possession, that possession, what if this possession, this one goes different talk, but I'm not sure he gets all caught up in that stuff. With the way that his team tends to in the last couple of years ascend this time of year. I thought he had good production off the bench when I was looking at the score earlier in the game. I think he got some production out of guys that I know. Tucker Tornado had 8 points at one point in the game,
Yep. Finished with 8.
Here's a guy that doesn't get a lot of consistent minutes, so they're getting performance from people that are giving them help at this time of year when you take anything you can get.
Final score again, 78-77. Belmont will get to where they're at in the standings because they are top by themselves, 19-3 now in the season for the Belmont Bruins, 9-2 in the Missouri Valley Conference. And no disagreement with Coach Roger Powell after the game. He said that's an NCAA tournament team. And that's why he was so proud of his group's effort in that game last night as well. Final game of the night, the nightcap, which we're going to start calling the Fitzy and Matthews Power Hour. It seems like those guys are always getting the final game of the night. The Redbirds really weren't tested a whole lot on the road at Murray State, which is, as we know, an extremely hard place to play, let alone go in and win. I believe 2 years in a row now that the Redbirds have won on the road at Murray State. They win it 70-65, led in large part to who else than Chase Walker. Man, he walked that walk and talked the talk a little bit last night. I was listening to Jeff Bidwell and our good friend Baker from the March to the Arch podcast, and I believe Chase Walker gave a kiss to the student section on his way out, and Jeff Bidwell said it was well-earned after going 8 of 12 from the field, 21 points, 5 rebounds for him. Interesting change. They didn't have Skunberg either. We know how big of a role Skunberg is. He had the flu. He stayed home. Talk about guys wanting to buy into a role to help the team. Johnny Kinzinger came off the bench last night, had 10 points, made some clutch shots late. For him to be willing to change a role, who a guy that we all know what he's more than capable of, and Lord only knows, Coach Peden knows what he's capable of is for his team. To be without Skunberg, to make a tweak to the lineup and put Mason Claybo in there, who also finished the game in double figures with 10 points. Man, for Coach Peden to start 2 freshmen in the starting 5, to go on the road and win an important game in league play, that speaks volumes about the Redbirds. A really big win for Illinois State.
It seems like a year ago since we played the Redbirds at Pantera Center, right? But Claybo was a guy that really impressed me. He came in with very little fanfare. I don't pay attention to the recruiting boards or any of that stuff, so I don't get all caught up in that until they start playing games. Man, you talk about a guy that doesn't play like a freshman. How many times have we been saying that all season? Another terrific freshman to go along with the one that has really lived up to his billing as well. That's a good win, man. That's regardless of where they were supposed to finish and all that stuff for the Redbirds, they've hit their rough patch. That's a good way to come out of it, by going down to Murray, Kentucky and coming home a winner.
Maybe the most impressive thing, Roman Doman, only 8 points in the game. We know how talented he is, and also asked Northern Iowa how hard it is to stop him. And for him to be held to 8 points, and half of those points came at the free throw line as well. Tremendous effort. Fred King, again, a double-double, 19 points, 11 rebounds. Javon Jackson had 15 points as well, but 15 points on 16 shots. Illinois State made him earn it, every point that he got in the game. And just, again, tip of the cap to Illinois State to going on the road and winning that game, which now brings us to the league standings, Coach Watson. Belmont at 9-2. They lead the way. They are 5-1 on the road right now in league play. A tremendous road record for Coach Casey Alexander. 4-1 at home. Of course, their lone home loss was to the Salukis. They host Murray State this weekend. Talk about a big-time atmosphere that's going to be at the Curb Event Center. Murray, with a win, can pull right back into a tie for first, as they're now a game back, 8-3 in the league standings. Then you have 3 teams tied with 4 losses: Illinois State, Bradley, and UIC. Right now, at the season end today, UIC would be the 3 seed in St. Louis, because they've already beaten those 2 teams above them in Illinois State and Bradley. And the irony, have already beaten them in their building this year, which is just, we'll talk to Elijah Crawford here in just a matter of moments. Drake, 6-5, right there below right now, so they would be the first team out of not being able to get the bye into Friday. And by the way, that matchup, you know what the 5-4 matchup would be? Illinois State Bradley would be the 5-4 game on Friday in St. Louis. Talk about Woo! First game for both those teams being the War on 74 in St. Louis would be tremendous. So Drake, 6th. In the 7th spot is UNI. They are 5-6. They are a half game above Valpo right now at 4-6. And then you have SIU with the win. They move up, or at least in the win column, get 3-7. In 10th is Indiana State at 2-9. And then Evansville, again, a great effort for them on the road in Des Moines, but come up short still now at 1-9 in league play. And that is a look at the league standings and where it sits. And now this weekend, as we already hinted at, Coach Watson, great games all the way around. Valpo at Indiana State. We talk about the Sycamores. Don't take – I know right now they are really frustrated with how that game ended in Chicago, but you want to talk about teams in terms of tough to guard. Indiana State's going to be one of them. Valpo has shown, and we've talked about them, their physicality on defense is going to get tested in Terre Haute. Evansville, they'll finish out their road swing. They'll be at Northern Iowa on Saturday. Bradley will be at Drake in Des Moines. That game Saturday tips off at 5, by the way. UIC at Southern. It's going to be a 6 o'clock tip on Saturday. And then Murray at Belmont. That will be on CBS Sports Network. That will close out the Valley schedule of the night. Again, tip will be at 7 o'clock for that one. By the way, Valpo and Indiana State, noon Central. Evansville, Northern Iowa will be 3 o'clock Central there on Saturday. Again, I don't want to make it seem like any other day is not an entertaining day in the league, Coach Watson, but I think it's pretty simple. Man, we're going to be following that score of Murray State Belmont. How many points? What do you think the over-under is going to be between those two teams? I'd love to know what those folks in Vegas are trying to coop up, because I have to say that'd be one of the highest over-unders. Those are two teams that can score and score in bunches.
Yeah, and not to mention something that you talk a lot about in the last couple of years, how important it is to hold court at home to win the conference championship. Am I correct? Everyone's lost in the league at home, with Belmont losing to us and Murray losing twice at home now?
Yeah, so right now you will not have an unbeaten team at home.
That's odd. And
the irony to piggyback off of that, and this is not to dig more on Evansville, they're 0-5 at home in league play. So like you kind of have two things. You have very rare, you ever see a team, you have the champion or someone going at home being really, really good, obviously, because that's the key to it. But not very often you see a team like Evansville sit at 0-5 at home through half of their league games.
I think it also speaks to when people can't quite believe us yet that we are a really good league. And again, it's just a testament to how good it is 1 through 11. When you don't have a team that's undefeated at home late in January, that's a very, I don't recall that very often, especially when the league is really good like it is right now.
That's what made Drake's run last year so impressive for Coach McCollum, was they had more home losses last year in league play than road losses. Many people forget that. They were 9-1 on the road last year. They were 8-2 at home. I mean, they were good at home. We kind of told you, look, if you lose one at home, it's probably not going to be the end of the world, in terms of trying to fight for a championship. There's been years like that for Southern too, and we brought up those numbers in the past. 2 is where you're probably getting, okay, like your margin for error now is really slim. 2 or more, it's not very often you're going to see league champions lose more than 2 games on their home floor. And right now, as you said, Coach Watson, you look at the league in terms, you have Belmont, who's 4-1 at home. Murray, they're 5-1 at home with their first loss coming to Illinois State. Redbirds are 4-1 at home. Bradley, 5-1 at home. It's no surprise that basically the top 4 teams in the league now, UIC, they're 4-2 at home, but they've done a much better job recently after losing to Northern Iowa and Murray, which I think it's fair to say now, because of how well he's played, they didn't have Elijah Crawford for either of those 2 games, and that dude's made a big difference. And he's going to be next up here in our podcast briefly. But teams have been really good at home this year, which isn't a surprise. But, man, it's going to be a really key thing here down the stretch. Like you said, for Belmont, Saturday it's going to be a good test no matter what. But to your point, if you want to be the league champion, that's a game that you got to find a way to win. And if they do, they'll have a 2-game lead on everybody else in the league.
Yeah, it's a huge game, like you say. And yet at the same time, I don't know. I'd be kind of like to hear what other people that are doing broadcasts, how they feel about their program. And this is going to sound so arrogant. I don't really care who we play in St. Louis, frankly.
Yeah.
Now we've got to be playing good basketball. We've got to play at the level we played last night and keep getting better over the month. But if we can continue to do that, and there's nothing on our stat sheet that says, yeah, that's not going to get there. Are we going to be, I mean, are we going to be known for our 3-point shooting in February? Not necessarily, but we can make enough to win game. That's not going to beat us. Our free throw thing we talk about, sure. Our physicality, which we are known for, will we live up to it like we did last night? Something you got to get consistent with. Our ability to score in the lane, which everybody knows. Will we keep doing that and be consistent? But, in terms of the league, I have a lot of respect. I'm not kidding about this talent now. This talent is legit. There are a lot of guys that as a former coach, you wish you had a chance to coach these guys, and it's up and down on all 11 teams. I mean, I live in Evansville. There's guys on their team. It's like, man, I'd like to take a chance coaching that guy. AJ Casey's one of them, a guy that knows what it's like to win at a high level, and then we can go up and down the list. But good league and very unpredictable.
Said this to Mike Kern, who was at our game and in the building last night, which Mike, of course, has been a part of the Valley for a long time. And I said, what's great, Mike, is you look throughout the league, it's very healthy right now. It's a great league. And when you talk about being the 9th best league in the country, but I also look at it as this is how many of the teams in this league, block out the part of, man, how many teams do you want to see? How many teams does a team that hasn't played them yet all year come an NCAA tournament want to see them for their first game? And I think it's very deserving to pinpoint them now because they are right now first in the league. I'm telling you right now, if you're a top seed and you get Belmont for your first game, better strap up and be ready because Bruins are not going to be fun to play. We've obviously, and so I know Murray has hit a little bit of a skid here, but we know how gifted that team is. And even let's throw UIC in that mix. If UIC was a team that was able to win Arch Madness and earn that bid, you're telling me that would be a fun team to play against? I mean, it's all about styles and matchups and who you match up with. But tell you, if they play a team that doesn't want to be physical and battle on the boards, UIC would be a team that I would not be happy to be matched up against come March either, Coach Watson.
Yeah, UIC is a team that I was happy when they had the reputation not being a good 3-point shooting team. I think I like Coach Eastham, but he wouldn't tell us the truth on that deal. I mean, with not only Crawford but Hammond's really being guys that can give you whatever you need from that perimeter. They're a team that, and it's more than just Crawford. And I can't wait for us to get a chance to speak with him. But man, they got some guys when you see them in person that you talk about playing for a purpose and seemingly one purpose. They're doing it.
Let's bring on the guy who's been a star for the Flames since returning to the lineup. He transferred in to UIC from BYU. And when you come from a school like BYU, you got a lot in that tank, regardless of the skill level, et cetera, for Elijah Crawford. And he is our guest here on the Saluki Basketball Podcast. Saluki Nation, we talk about great players in our league all the time. And, man, this guy is one of them. Unfortunately, we had to see him return against the Salukis and was a big reason why UIC has started the 7-game win streak, transferred in from BYU to UIC. So other than Elijah Crawford, who takes time to join us here on our podcast. Elijah, man, congrats on the season that you and the Flames are having. This hot stretch started when the Salukis came to Chicago. Just take our fans through of just the belief that you guys have had on a team to go on a run like you've been on right now, 7 wins in a row.
The main thing is just keep doing what we've been doing. Like before I was back when we went on that stretch, we were losing. Like we were playing good. It was just we couldn't finish the game. So I mean, I when I came back, I helped a lot with finishing games and being in at the end of the game to finish it.
What were the biggest things that you tried to do during that time when you're out, Elijah? And as you mentioned, it was easy to point to your guys' schedule and go, man, no D1 wins since November.
Right.
But those games were so close, as you mentioned. How agonizing was it to be on the bench and you can't really help in that way, but other ways you tried to help your team through during that stretch despite not being on the floor?
I mean, it was tough, just sitting back watching, knowing that you can help and, possibly help win these games. It was, of course, tough, but, I just stayed mentally strong. I didn't know, I honestly didn't know if I was going to be able to play this year because I was, my bone was almost broken in my foot. So I was out for 2.5 months. I mean, the red shirt conversations came up. Like, and I just ultimately betted it on myself. Like, I knew I wasn't gonna be back 100%. I'm still not 100%. I'm still having a little pain in it, but like I just betted on myself, and I mean I pushed through, and then I mean we are where we are now.
Elijah, help us get to know you a little bit better. You grew up in Augusta, Georgia. For those
Right,
of us in this part of the country, we know Augusta for a pretty cool golf tournament.
right.
How much has the Masters meant to you growing up in Augusta?
Well, you always hear about the Masters and like, all right, so every year the Masters, every year they have it, that's our spring break. So they'll have it on our spring break. So it's always been a big thing. But growing up, I've had the opportunity to go once, but I actually turned it down. But now looking back at it, like I didn't know that was a once in a lifetime type thing. So like I wish I would have gone. But I'm not a real big golf fan, but I mean it's definitely money out when golf comes around.
Well, you're a basketball fan. How about the Peach Jam? That's something that's
Oh
known for
yeah.
all of us that
Oh
have
yeah.
recruited. We spent a lot of summers at the Peach Jam when you
Right.
coach. How was it to be at home to play in the Peach Jam?
I mean, it was great, especially my 15U year. We came out and won. I think we went 15-1 that tournament. So that was the COVID year as well. So we were crunched in, played 2 games a day, felt like almost. And I mean, it was a great atmosphere. All my family and friends came out. Even people I grew up with just came out and support. So we always had a hot audience watching us when we played.
So out of high school, you go to BYU, and
Mhm.
how much did the year at BYU lead to your success that you're enjoying now at UIC as a player?
I mean, my year, it wasn't how I wanted it to be in terms of me just playing, but like learning from that staff, like Kevin Young, Bill and Tim Fannin, like John Linehan, great guard, played at Providence. Like it was just a learning experience. And at first it was very frustrating because I'm a freshman. I want to come in and play 20 plus minutes right away. But like looking back at it, I just worked hard every single day. John Linehan made sure I was in the gym every day, even if I wasn't playing. And he personally like helped impact my development. And also Charles, like Charles the GA, he's a GA there, but he was also a player. He played at Brewster, and he has the most wins in BYU history. So he just those guys helped me a lot, and like I learned a lot, and that's what I'm most grateful for going there is just learning.
Elijah, what's so great about us being able to do this is to not just talk to our guys here in Carbondale, but be able to talk to you, some of the great players in our league, and the other really good coaches in our league. And man, you play for one of them, and Coach Eson. He's always one of our favorites when we get a chance to talk to him. Look, it can be speed dating when you're going through this portal process and trying to figure out exactly where you want to go. But what immediately stood out to you when you had the opportunity to meet him,
Mhm.
where you go, I could see myself playing for him?
Right. I mean, it's kind of crazy because before I committed to BYU, I was actually committed to Stanford, and I was enrolled. I was supposed to go, and Rob was the associate head coach on that staff
Yeah.
with Jared Hass as the head coach. So like me and Rob always joke. Like I was always like, I'm gonna come play for you one day. Like it was always jokes. But like once I hit that portal from BYU and got in the portal from BYU, like it was a thing that turned in from a joke to reality. Like this is something that we can actually do. And he made it happen on his end. I made it happen on my end. So it worked out perfectly.
You talked about that communication piece of, hey, is this going to be a redshirt year, your health, all those things factoring in. When was kind of the point that you felt, Elijah, like I can play this year? Like this can be a legit thing where I can come back and play what is a really massive role for this team.
Uh I mean, I didn't that's the thing, I didn't know. Like with my ankle injury, I didn't really know because like it was still pain, but like it was pain that was a little tolerable. So like we gave it a go versus Valpo. They cleared me, gave it a go that game, and just take a few ibuprofens, I'll be fine.
Man, the magic of ibuprofen from time to time,
Yeah.
especially for you as the young guys. Let's talk about your team. Obviously, the success of this 7-game win streak has been important, but we talk so much throughout the league of teams finding out who they are,
Right.
knowing their identity, and not shying away from it. What would you say, Elijah, is the identity of your team and what you guys really embrace?
I would say defense, and our ability to just throw different guys on the floor. Like we play a bunch of players. Like our team is really unique. Like you don't see this often in college where you can play 10 to 11 guys and it's no let off. Like that's the special thing with our team. Like everyone can play. When I'm out the game, Ahmad comes in and he gives us a quick burst of a dual Momo. Like you could make an argument that he could start for any team in his conference almost. Like he comes off the bench, has a great attitude about it, comes off the bench and just does what he does. So I mean it's just like it's hard to beat a team that you can play one guy and then sub that guy out and there's no let off. So that's what I would say, our depth and our defense.
Kind of going on more about your team, Josiah Hammond just went berserk at the
Oh, yeah.
Bradley, a place that Southern Illinois knows it's a hard place to play. What does he bring your team as well? Another guy that, when we played you on January 7th, the thing was you guys were great offensive rebounders and you
Right,
also made free throws.
right.
And you're kind of similar at that time to Southern, that you weren't making 3-point shots. And all
Mhm.
of a sudden you two guys have kind of screwed up that equation a little bit.
Yeah, I mean with JoJo, like it's something we know JoJo can shoot the ball. Like he does it every single day in practice. So we've never lost confidence in JoJo. It was just he just got to find that one game and go crazy like he did, and it trickled over to multiple games. So he's in a great space right now. He's playing really well, and I'm excited for him. It seems like he can't miss.
You guys have a unique team. You alluded to it. You play so many guys, the depth, something Luke and I talk a lot about, not only with your team, Southern's team, but throughout the whole Valley. Everybody's playing with guys. And for a guy that coached for many years, it's hard as a coach to trust the bench. But
Right,
a guy like Makai Lowry,
right,
what he's a guy that could be overlooked on a scouting report.
exactly.
What does he bring for you specifically that you're getting from a teammate like Makai?
I know I'm getting a dog defensively from Makai. Like he can guard 1 through 5, literally. Like it's hard to even in practice sometimes when he gets switched on to me, it's hard to take him off the dribble because he's so long. If you beat him, his arms are there. Like it's just he's one of our most important pieces in my opinion. Like you can't overlook him because he's our glue in my opinion. So he's really great for our team, especially defensively.
You look at since you've came back, Elijah, you've been a big part of that too, especially with your steals numbers right there with Makai. What are those areas where you look at yourself as a defender and you feel you've improved on that side of your game?
I would just say something improved on is just being communicative, like just talking to my teammates, just being a leader on defense. I would say just using my voice is something that I improved the most on.
Look, man, when you guys go through seasons, you never apologize for winning because it's hard to win
Right.
these games. And man, what a game you had this week against
Uh,
Indiana State, a game where
yeah,
you guys play about as well as you could to then give credit to Indiana State to come back and have a chance to win.
right,
Walk
right.
us through, man, that final possession of just you're setting up obviously for a defensive stand. And
Right.
all of a sudden, I can only imagine how big your eyes got when all of a sudden you saw that ball coming your way.
I just know I remember I think it was Abdul on the ball, taking the ball. He had the ball, the inbounder. I just remember him jumping out of the gym, making it hard for that guy to get it in. And I remember I believe it was number 23 on Indiana State taking the ball out. Um, he didn't have anyone to throw it to. So I kind of baited him. I let my defender get behind me and I clapped. I said, ball, ball, ball. And he looked at me and also looked at the other defender. I meant his teammate. So when he did that, I mean, I kind of knew I was going to get it because if he didn't throw a straight line drive pass, it was no other way for it to get there. And then with Mo on the ball, it was already hard for him to do that. So as soon as I seen he had no other options, I just turned my head and ran and jumped and caught the ball, man, and scored it.
It was a remarkable finish.
Yeah,
Us watching throughout the league on Tuesday, you guys being the standalone game. To find ways to win games like that, Elijah, no doubt say volumes about you guys as a team. And we talked
right,
about holistically, it's easy to see it now when you've won 7 in a row.
right,
Wasn't easy when you were 0-4.
right.
Yet the look you guys had when we saw you in Chicago wasn't a look of a team that was 0-4. How,
Mm.
what do you credit that to with you guys just collectively as a group of not really letting your record dictate how you play?
Mhm. I mean, I credit that to coach. Like from day one, coach Coach Eson he was adamant on like this thing can flip just like this. Like we're in these ball games, we just have to find a way to finish, and that's been our biggest thing. And I mean, just coach instilling that confidence in us, and like we had to grow that confidence for ourselves because we didn't see it as a team at first. Coach was the only person who seen it. So I mean, once we figured it out, like bro, we can win these games and we can beat any team in this league any given night. I feel like once we figured that out, that's when we got really dangerous.
Elijah, that's a credit to you. It's a credit to your teammates. It's easier said than done, especially with so much noise from social media perspective and everything on the outside. How do you yourself block all that out, whether it's good noise, bad noise, indifference, to just make sure that you keep yourself as steady as you can to have the type of results that you've had as an individual, but also lead to team success?
Yeah, man. I just try to stay grounded, not get too high, not get too low. Stay grounded in my faith and just just go out there and play every game like it's my last. Cause like my this year could have been taken away from me just like that first game of the season. Like I didn't expect to come back playing this well. Like I didn't know. So I mean, it was a bunch of uncertainty. So I just say stay grounded because you never know, anything can happen in the blinking of an eye.
Elijah, I'm really appreciate that answer. And it really leads into something that I was wanting to ask you about. Guy that grows up in Augusta, Georgia, had an opportunity to go to Stanford, to go to not only play basketball, but go to school at Stanford, which is an obvious. You obviously done very well in school to get that opportunity. You go to BYU, another good school, go through the University of Illinois system, which is an excellent school as well. What are you studying, and where does that take you someday?
Right now I'm in business management, but I think I'm gonna get over to business administration. After ball, man, I wanna kind of get into everything. I wanna get into real estate. I wanna franchise off businesses. I just wanna be a businessman. I don't wanna work for anyone.
Has anyone had this conversation with you? You know, we live in the era of NIL, and I'm happy
Right.
for you guys. You know, I think it's great, and you know that there's a lot of chatter about that one way or the other. But does anyone ever talk about the real key to the pot of gold is your degree, and is that something that sunk into you maybe through your family or
Yeah.
through your coaches?
Yes, sir. I mean, growing up, I've always had great grades. That's something I know I was gonna do regardless. Graduate high school, graduate college with a degree. I would just say I think my mom instilled that into me early. Like if I wasn't acting right in school, she would take away my sports. So school was always my number one priority when it came to just anything. Like that was my number one, and then it was sports. But I played multiple sports growing up, so school has always been my number one priority.
Elijah, before I let you go, man, because we appreciate your time, we know your time is limited. Let's talk about the league as a whole. Like you said, when you've been looked at the type of schools that you have been looked at, you've played with really good players.
Right.
You've been surrounded by really good players. At times in our league, I don't think we promote guys like you enough as what we should, and how good you are, and how good are so many other of the players are in our league. You've seen college basketball at really high level. How would you describe the level of competition night in, night out within the league that you're in right now?
I mean, Missouri Valley's tough. Like this is a really respected league, in my opinion. I think honestly, the only difference between like our league and maybe like a Big 12 or SEC is maybe just size and athleticism, I would say. Like the coaches are really good, players are really good. You just in those bigger leagues, you just have bigger guys and guys that are maybe stronger, faster, and more athletic. That would be the my analysis of it. But other than that, like this league is definitely legit, day in, day out.
Clearly, you guys have figured out what is working for the Flames here in this stretch. For you guys to make it 8 in a row on Saturday here in Carbondale, Elijah, what are the biggest things that you guys just have to keep doing that have obviously led to you guys winning 7 in a row? What will it take to win 8 in a row here on Saturday?
Man, just keep doing what we're doing. Offensive rebound, low turnovers, and play our game and play really, really scrappy defense. And we do that. If we do that, we'll be fine.
Elijah, man, like we said, we got great players in the league. You're one of them, and we need to do our job in promoting you. We really appreciate
Thank
you
you.
taking time to
I
come on and
appreciate you
talk.
guys for taking the time to have me.
Well, we said it, Coach Watson, with him, and it's, one, appreciate Elijah wanting to do it, but I don't understand why it can be a challenge to promote really good players in this league. It's not. Look, not every school in our league would allow two guys like us to have the opportunity to just talk ball with Elijah. It's not like we're talking about the codes, the Fort Knox here, and all the defensive schemes that UIC is going to use here on Saturday. But man, just so refreshing to hear a guy who thought maybe basketball wouldn't be for him this year, and man, oh man, he has made it count when he has come back. And that's a young man that, even though a young guy, still a sophomore, I mean, like, he talks like he's a fifth-year veteran of this thing, but he's got a lot of basketball in front of him, yet he is making sure he doesn't waste one single day of opportunity to play. You can tell it matters to him.
Relationships matter, man. His conversation about Coach Eson recruiting him to go to Stanford, Coach Eson then takes another job, and however that happened, he ends up at BYU. They still have a connection all the way through, and look how that's turned out for UIC. And it's so different. Recruiting's so different now than when I was doing it or was a part of it. It's even so much more 24/7, literally. But UIC certainly, they didn't steal one. They just stayed connected with one, and they knew what they were getting. And it's another example where a school knew the production over the potential, and man, has it come into life for them.
Big thank you to Rob Eson and Chris Masters, Chris, who works in the athletic department at UIC, for setting us up and allowing us to talk to Elijah, and looking forward to hopefully more of those conversations we go throughout the year. He has made a massive difference in this team, Coach Watson, and you actually look at this year, and we didn't bring it up with him because, one, heck, he knows. I'm sure he's been asked about it a million times. When he has played this year for UIC, they've only lost once. The lone game they lost, that was the road game at Valpo, which was technically his first real game back, and then they've reeled off 7 in a row. That is a remarkable number for him, and that's not by accident. He is playing a really big part in this team. What impresses you about Elijah's game, as I know we just got done talking to him, and you really touched up on it with him, of what you like about his game?
Leading scorer, and he's got a 3-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. Now, man, that speaks really impressive, incredibly impressive player. That's a sophomore in college in the first year playing at UIC. That is incredibly hard to do. He's a stat stuffer. He's a guy that's a big part of their steals. They have 5 guys on their team in the 11 conference games that are averaging over a steal a game. When you put all those numbers together, it's a big reason why they're plus minus on steals 92 to 55. Again, just in league play. Elijah's a huge part of it, but just the way he speaks about his teammates, he knew them all, and he was willing to give credit to every one of them in so many ways, and it came off easily and genuinely how he spoke about his teammates.
JoJo, Josiah Hammonds, man, you talked about his shooting ability and how he's really been able to be an impact lately, especially the game at Bradley. I mean, keep in mind, we talked about going into the first game too. It's a guy that scored 31 points against Belmont on the road. I mean, he has shown the ability that he can fill it up in a hurry. And what really impressed us was when we were there early, he was one of the first guys on the floor, and he's just clearly a guy that you watch and you see him go through his workout regimen. I was worried because I'm like, man, this guy is going to be a problem.
Man, that free throw looked perfect. I mean, golly, what a great technique. And he's shooting 90% in the league, 18 for 20. And and then you throw on top of it, he's a 3-point shooting specialist. He's a guy that doesn't shoot many inside the arc. And that's for a reason. They've got guys that can go do that. He will stretch the floor as he did at Bradley and in other games. You called it, man. I so badly, Luke, want you to be wrong in a lot of things you say from time to time. One, you were talking about how good UIC can be, and I was hoping you were wrong. I was hoping you weren't right about Hammonds, and you were right on them, and you were right about Crawford. So I wish you quit being right on our opponents.
Well, you kind of go back to that night, and Steve Hawkins said after that game, Luke, it's one of the worst nights that we have felt as a staff because you felt like, man, after you go and you get a really big road win at Belmont, you weren't able to stack it up to make it what would have been at the time 3 in a row. But in a way, too, and no, there were clearly things that Southern's got to improve on. And I'm going to ask you about them here in a moment of what SIU's got to do better here in round 2. But it's why I think it's so important to not forget. And I know I say it so many times, I should probably put it on a T-shirt, and our fans are like, it's a broken record. But there's always a 50% equation to these games. And that night in Chicago, leaving it, felt a lot of it was, man, it's about 80-90% Southern struggles. Now you see what this UIC team has done in this stretch. I hope our fans for sure, and I hope others are going, you know, I think you shouldn't have sold that team short at any point. I know we didn't, but now clearly, like, this is a team that's in the thick of this conference championship race now.
Yeah, if you will listen to our pregame show Saturday, you'll hear Darion Reddick say it very simply. We got punched in the mouth, and we didn't respond. We were too casual about the approach to that game after coming off a big win at Belmont, hanging in there only so far their league loss at home. But there were 3 things that stuck out in that game: the 15-5, the offensive rebounds. It screamed. It's what Coach said to us after the game against Northern Iowa about when I asked him about living up to the reputation about being physical. UIC looks at stats. They look at film. They look at things. They figure out what Southern's good at, just like we look at what they're good at. And they knew as well. You know, we talked about their offensive rebound, their physicality, their defense inside the arc. Southern didn't match it that game. In the last game against Northern Iowa, Southern definitely matched it, and they knew they've got to bring their reputation. So the rebounding physicality part was a big part of it, kind of playing off the physicality side. On one hand, the 4 free throws, that didn't set well with anyone. It certainly didn't set well with Southern staff, and it shouldn't have. But you know, it was lopsided 4 free throws for Southern. So I believe it was it 18 for UIC. It was a big lopsided number. And part of you say, well, we didn't get a whistle. But the big part of it was Southern didn't play physical where they needed to in the arc to put themselves in a spot to get free throws. As I remember the UIC game, UIC drove strong to the lane where they're not going to live on the 3-point arc. They don't shoot a lot of them anyway, almost identical to Southern. But what they did was they went into scoring positions, created contact. Think about Henderson in particular, the littlest player on the floor. He went in, used his toughness, picked up fouls and contact, and they got to the free throw line. Southern's got to really change that around. Probably as big as anything, Southern's got to take care of the basketball. I mean, this UIC team takes care of the ball. That's something they pride themselves. You heard Elijah say that they take care of the ball. Right now they're averaging right at 10 turnovers a game in league play. Their opponents are just between 13 and 14. Southern can't have, they've got to continue what they did with Northern Iowa, really take care of it. I found a really interesting stat in the overall combined stats in league play for UIC. They're shooting 42s in their 11 conference games to 18 threes. And they're shooting their threes now at just a smidgen, 1/1000th of a point underneath the coveted 33% three-point shooting, which gives you a 50% range of shooting from 2 in the same equation. Their opponents, this is interesting, man. Their opponents are shooting 32s in the 11 games and 27 threes. And that'll be something where that is really an indicator of how good the defense UIC is putting on the floor, how they guard the arc. Look, their numbers aren't great guarding inside the arc. If you can get in the arc and you really attack it, they're giving up 51%, just a fuzz over 51% scoring inside the arc. Southern's at 52.7, I think, which is, not great. But again, that's an area where Southern's been pretty good. So I think the game's going to really take place inside the arc. Who's going to be physical? Who can go in and pick up fouls, finish shots off strong? UIC shown they can do it.
To your point, UIC in the winning streak. So this is just the 7 games. This includes their obviously really good numbers. They've won all 7 of these games. They are 9th in the league in 2-point percentage defense. About 54% is what teams are shooting, even during this 7-game winning streak form. You flip it, their defense, 3-point percentage, number 1. They are holding teams to shooting right at 25%, which is really an elite level. And then as another area, as you said, was really improved for them in this stretch. Can't say this is not a good shooting team during this streak. almost 36% from three over the last 7 games in the 7-game win streak. That's 4th best in the league. The only teams that are shooting better. How about Valpo? Almost 41% from three over the last 7 games. They're shooting at a really good clip. Belmont, whenever you're in the conversation with Belmont in terms of shooting the basketball, it's a really good clip for them. 37%. Evansville right above UIC, just under 36% at 35.7. But one area that was very critical in the game, Coach Watson, I know many pinpointed at, frustration of not getting to the free throw line as much as you would have liked. That's an area that SIU's got to clean up here in game number 2. Is UIC, what they thrive on is getting to the free throw line, and if they miss, rebounding at an absolute elite level. During this 7-game stretch, nobody has a higher offensive rebounding percentage than UIC.
And you talk about the free throw things free throws go along with offensive rebounds. It just happens that way because there's contact. In Southern's case, why I tell you it's fixable, it is very fixable because the 4 key guys that are involved in the free throw that are fixable, that are definitely not shooting up to where they are very capable, would be Kelron, Jalen, Drew, and Rollins. All 4 guys at the free throw line, they can get it solved. They've got it, they can work it out. They're working on it. They can get there. It's not a situation where it's just like, hey, man, you're asking for something that's not happening. No, I'm asking for 4 guys. The guys that get fouled, especially, that they've got to get themselves all above 70%. When you talk about UIC's free throw shooting, they play 9 guys, 17 to 27 minutes. They'll play another guy lighter minutes, but primarily it's a 9-man rotation. 4 guys are shooting 80%. 5 of those 9 that we're talking about, and they're the guy that shot, Momo shot the second most free throws in league play. He's shooting 40%. The other 4 of that group of the 9, they're all shooting underneath 70. But the key is the 4 key guys that are getting, especially guards, they're getting the free throw line and they're knocking them down at a high clip.
Should be a fun one on Saturday night. We hope you join us, Saluki Nation. Tip-off will be at 6. Our pregame coverage starts at 5 on Saluki Radio, which will be fun between the Flames and the Salukis. Let's see if SU can start a winning streak and if they can put out the red-hot UIC Flames. Big thanks again to Elijah Crawford for taking time to come on the show from UIC. For the Hall of Famer Ronnie Watson, I am Luke Martin saying so long, Saluki Nation. We'll talk to you Saturday night from Banterra. Go Dogs.
This has been Saluki Royalty, the official podcast for Saluki Athletics. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review however you listen. The preceding has been a Learfield presentation on the Saluki Sports Network.